Okay, everyone, welcome and good evening. Thank you for joining. Move this back a tiny bit. I guess. Hold that. Try to get a good angle. Okay. So first, before I forget, tonight's shir was dedicated by the Leantz family in honor of Mrs. Leantz, Shanga Leantz's birthday, which is tonight, the 16th of of Kislev. May she have a shnas bracha and atzlacha, wonderful good year. Bracha mazel, nachas from the kids, nachas from the new grandchild, as Hashem, the future grandchildren, bakar of mamish, and only happiness, pranasa barachava, and a lot of Mashiach to light. Thank you so much for that dedication. She also dedicated it in honor of a refuah shalema for me. Okay, so don't get worried, I'm good. But the reason I am not in my regular place recording from Maayon Yisroel, from our center, is because, let me just want to get the right angle here. Just bear with me. What do you think? Here we are. Is because I am being sequestered this week. I tested positive for COVID on Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos. I found out that there were some people in our shul that had some that had tested positive last week. So I shut down the shul for Shabbos. I didn't want to spread contamination if we know people have it. We don't want to spread that. I don't have an outside place. It's just indoors, so I didn't want to do that. And but on Shabbos I wasn't. I didn't really taste much of the food, and I didn't smell. So I got suspicious that something was wrong. So Motzei Shabbos I took it. I was feeling pretty good, but then I took the test. It's interesting. Immediately, like, ask how much the brain works on you. Immediately after I took the test, I started feeling like majorly lousy. So Sunday I was really feeling quite miserable. And Baruch Hashem, now I'm just perfect. I feel great and good and up and running. So I want to thank Hashem, obviously. He's the one who sends a refuah. It's always a little worrisome when you get something like COVID. You're worried, like who knows what's going to happen. But I also want to thank Dr. Zelinsky. I took his protocol. Immediately Motzei Shabbos, I called someone, was able to get me the stuff I needed. I right away started taking all the stuff that he recommends, hydrochloric and whatever they call it, with the others, with zinc and whatever it is. I have to say, by Monday morning, I was hardly feeling anything. And today, Tuesday, I'm good. It's like gone. I don't feel any virus inside of me. Other than the taste and smell, I don't smell anything. But other than that, I'm good. Baruch Hashem. So I don't care what they tell you, scientists, whatever the stories they want to hack you in Chinik on the news or whatever. The stuff works, at least for me. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's a much weaker strain and every person reacts differently, so I can't tell you why. Thank God I didn't suffer too much with this COVID. But I did take that thing, and I'm still taking it. It's a 5-day regimen. And I'm feeling fantastic. Baruch Hashem. I'm going to share it with everybody. Oops, I fell off. Looks like that. Here I am. See, I'm being censored. I'm mentioning that there's other remedies than, I guess, this new vaccination they're planning. And I'm already being thrown off YouTube. Okay, it's good. In any case, I'm just saying this is what happened. I'm feeling great. Baruch Hashem. So, obviously, I think into things a little Kabbalistically, mystically. I did whatever it takes to avoid getting sick with COVID all these months. And B'Hashgacha Pratis, I met up with it. Dafka this week, on the week of the 19th of Kislev. And I feel there's a connection of the 19th of Kislev to COVID-19. Somehow or some way, the 19th of Kislev, I think, is a remedy for the COVID-19 in the world, the antithesis, the healing, the rectification. So for me to get it the week of the 19th of Kislev, I'm in the business of 19th of Kislev. That's my business, which is to teach Chassidus, which Chassidus is the 19th of Kislev. That's its day of its liberation. That's the day of its power. So I'm thinking about the 19th of Kislev, the significance of number 19, the significance of COVID-19, and also the remedy that I took, which, as soon as, COVID started spreading, I started taking zinc every day because I heard that zinc is good. But in this particular, what he calls the protocol, it's a blend. You take zinc and then you take this other stuff. It seems to be that the main healing, the main power against the virus is the zinc. It's just that in order to penetrate the cell or whatever it is, the germ, the viral, the virus, in order to penetrate it, you need this other stuff, which was medications that were people used for other things, for I think, malaria or whatever. So somehow the hydrocortic, I don't even know its name. I don't know why I think it's such complicated names for medications. In any case, whatever it is, it helps crack open the virus and deliver the zinc into it. So the zinc, however, is the one that destroys it. So I'm thinking about it. Like, what's the connection? What's the significance of that? And obviously, connected to this week and connected to Yutas Kislev and connected to Parshas Vayishlach. So these are just some of my thoughts. Again, they might be true, they might not, but I figured I'll share them. I mentioned a lot a couple of months ago when the COVID started. I mentioned at that time that the feeling I got immediately is that this virus is related to Amalek. It's related to forces, real dark forces of Klippa. The virus is Klippa, any illness. Illness is from the unholy. That's what it is. And so this virus is definitely a Klippa. The question is, which Klippa is it? But on the other hand, I did a lot of talking and spoke about Corona being the coronation. And COVID-19 having all the ideas representing very, very high levels of holiness. And the answer is both are true, as I mentioned in the class, that there is the external element of it and then there is the pnimius of it. The pnimius of it is Mashiach. Mashiach is entering the world without a question that this event, this global event is a Mashiach phenomenon. And that's why it's associated with crown, with coronation. Coronation is the coronation of God in the world, the coronation of the King of David, the Melech Beis David, which is Mashiach Tzidkenu. And that's why it's catching the attention of the entire world and stopping everybody. And that definitely, there's no question. But at the same time, it's still, Mashiach is not coming to kill anybody. Mashiach is not coming to harm anybody. Mashiach is not to come here to send people to the hospital. That's not Mashiach, especially not good people. Definitely not good people. How many good people died? How many good people suffered? How many good people, were ill and how many sadly passed away? So we have to say that there is an element to it that's extremely dark. So it has to be the way I understood it. Again, these are all, whatever I'm saying, when it comes to anything that I'm saying that's not exactly taken from a book, it's all just speculation. This is my speculation, it's my feeling, and either yeah or not. But if it resonates with you and it makes sense, good. If it doesn't resonate, also good. but this is the way I thought of it back then. And I'm going to share with you what makes this kind of supports it. Is that being that everything is always in its name. So corona means crown, and it also looks like crown, the virus. So it has crown-like spikes. So there is this, in holiness, crown is Keser of Kedusha. That's the revelation of Mashiach. It's going to be from the level of crown. I also discussed why it came last year, which is the year of the crown. Because the word pay, Tafshin Pei, 5780, 8 is associated with the crown, even though 8 is generally Bina, but in Bina, Bina is already connected to the three highest spheros, which are Bina, Chachma, and Keser. Kachab. Keser, Chachma, Bina. So Bina is already the seat that facilitates the Ein Sof. That's why on Yovel, the Jubilee year, which is the 50th year, which is Bina, because 50 years, everybody knows 50 is the 50 gates of Bina, is the time when there is Ukras and Deroi Ba'aretz. You call freedom to the land. The freedom is the energy that's infinite, that breaks all the barriers and brings Geula and redemption. That's all from the revelation of Keser, of a crown, which is Ein Sof, which is the idea of Yovel. So when did all this happen? In Tafshin Pei, which Pei is 80, which is Peled. Peled is also the associated with crown. So crown is definitely a Mashiach in you. So if I would be only a mensch a little bit, meaning if I would take my own teachings a little seriously, then I would say to myself this week, wow, I'm talking to myself right now, even though I'm sharing this with you, why did I get so, beaten up in a sense by the virus? I should concentrate more that, Mashiach is catching up with me. Corona is catching up. Geula is catching up. That you only see that second thought. The first time you see the shell, the klipa. So on a deeper level, no doubt, this is Mashiach. But then there is the external. And the external element of it all is the klipa that stands against the crown. And the klipa that stands in opposition to the revelation of God's crown is Amalek. And Amalek many times sometimes it's referred to as Chachma of Klipa, Reishis Goyim Amalek, that Amalek is called Reishis, the beginning of all nations, because they're the Chachma of Klipa. Chachma is the first sphere, and then the wisdom of Klipa. But in other times, it refers to, Amalek is referred to as Keser, the Klipa. And that's why they have this, the way Amalek works is that it's klipa, its unholiness is chutzpah. Chutzpah is just a stubborn, brazen anti-God, which is the idea of keser, which is amkshe oref. The Jewish people are associated with the level of also avakshanis, also related to the keser of the Jewish neshama, in which we have a stubbornness, mesiras nefesh, which is all related to the keser of the neshama, the ein sof of the soul. Since Chachma and Keser are deeply connected, as we said before, Bina is connected with Keser, but Chachma definitely connected to Keser, because in Chachma is where the Chachma comes from the Chachma Maayon Timatzeh, emerges straight from Keser. So it makes sense that there should be an association with in the Klipa as well, as Amalek being Chachma of Klipa or being Keser the Klipa. But again, in many places it does say that Amalek is the Keser of Klipa. And that's why it's the ultimate enemy, because it blocks Mashiach. And that's why Mashiach cannot come until Amalek is eradicated from the world. Mulchama Hashem ba'Amalek. There's a war against Amalek, midor dor, from generation to generation. Sages say from the first generation, which was the generation of Moshe, until the last generation, the generation of Mashiach. So, and that's the final act. And it says when it says Mashiach will wage wars, Yilchaim Milchamas Hashem, that Mashiach has to wage wars, it means the war against Amalek. That's his main war that he has to fight. Destroy Amalek from the world. So Amalek is a nation. We don't know who the nation is. They mixed amongst the people. Sancheriv came and mixed the world together. So we don't really have Amalekim today that we can point. We know they're the descendants related to this week's parsha. They're descendants of Esav. And the first time Amalek is actually mentioned in the Torah is this week's parsha. Now, actually, they're already mentioned earlier because I think there's a field mentioned in the Parshas Lech Lecha called Stei HaAmaleki, the field of the Amalek. And it's in Rashi, I think, if I'm not making a mistake, Rashi already mentions it's called so on the future because Amalek wasn't born yet then in Parshas Lech Lecha. But in this week's parsha, amongst the descendants of Eliphaz, it mentions Amalek. So Amalek is actually born because he's from the Alufe of Esav. So he's a descendant of Esav, that we know. And that those people manifest Amalek. Now, Sacherev came and mixed them in the world doesn't mean they don't exist. They're just somewhere embedded in the world, and they have to be eradicated. Now, as Amalek represents a physical, embodies itself in physical human beings, and these physical human beings are destroyed somehow before Mashiach comes. The real reason why they are destroyed is because of the power of Tumah that they possess, the power of impurity, which is a spiritual power. That tells you that there is the personification of Amalek, or embodiment in a body, incarnation in a body, and that needs to be destroyed. And we find so much that every trace of it has to be destroyed. That's why Shalom HaMelech was punished, because he didn't erase it from the animals. It has to be utterly obliterated. Even an animal of Amalek needs to be destroyed. That's how far the trace of Amalek needs to be removed from the earth. But they definitely exist as well as a spiritual force, as an energy, as an idea, as a concept. So it's a force that opposes God. That's what it is. And it doesn't. Don't have to leave too much for the imagination to try to figure out who that is today in terms of this powerful war that's fought against God in the world. And that's a final battle, and we can feel the battle. This battle has been raging the last couple of years for sure in the world, and in a very strong way here in the United States. And that battle is won by Mashiach Tzidkenu. Now, we know that the final battle, however, before Mashiach, is also associated with Gog and Magog. So it would likely to say, even though I didn't see this anywhere explicitly, that somehow Gog and Magog, which is this last final war, is associated with Amalek. Somehow, again, when you look in the descendants of Noach, you have Magog mentioned amongst the descendants of Yefes, which is not related to Esav. These are not even from the descendants of Shem. That means they're not Semites. So it doesn't seem to be related to Amalek. But again, I think there is sources for that as well. I didn't look this up before the class. But where am I going with this? One of the Mefarshim regarding the Gog and Magog war, this is the Netziv in Sefer, in his Pirush, maybe in Hemek. I have a Sefer over here on one of his Sfarim. The Netziv writes that his interpretation of Gog and Magog is that it's going to be not a war, a physical war, but a big virus. I mean, this stuff has been going around on WhatsApp. I'm not the one making this up. I'm not the one, discovering it or bringing it to your attention. It's been out. I've seen it a long time ago. Already Pesach time, people were spreading this thing. So again, when you're talking about an energy can take on different forms. It can take on people. It can take on a virus. It can take on people pushing a virus. Again, I'm not trying to get into all this speculation, but it makes sense that this is a dark energy that's here right before the world that has to be fought. So the relationship, let's go back to Amalek and the virus and Corona, is that I pointed to a couple of similar, back again, you can listen to a class I gave right when this all came out. I forgot the name of the class, but it's interesting also that it came to America Purim time. That's when the virus exploded. Not just in America, around everywhere. It started like January, we started hearing about it, February. But when we finally shut the shuls and everything went into lockdown and started its lockdowns, it's all started Purim time. Parsha Zachar, remember, many shuls started closing already. Which Parsha Zachar was, remember what Amalek did to you. It was for that reason, obviously, where it occurred to me that this must be Amalek. And when I analyzed the virus a little more carefully, the idea that it had a keser, it had a crown, and it's called keser, and Amalek is keser of Klippa. That was one of the indications. Another one of the indications was it thrives in cold. Heat, it doesn't like heat. I guess at least that's what they were saying then. I watched a video where someone was saying that the reason why China, even though they're the source of the virus, have kind of like done pretty well in terms of their amount of people dying, unless they don't tell us, and we don't know, because no one really knows always what's happening in China, but I'm not sure. Maybe by now we would know. The reason why they're kind of recuperating over it. Everybody, other countries are still have a problem with it, but the Chinese are okay. So I saw a video. Again, you don't even know what you're watching, what's correct, what's not. But someone was saying that they drink a lot of hot. And they're always drinking tea in Chinese culture. Drinking heat, is hot stuff is good. It kills the virus. But again, I didn't confirm all this scientifically, so don't, But this is at least information that I once was convinced was true. So it does seem to like the cold, and Amalek we know is associated with ashakarcha, with coldness, and they make you cold. There's the opposite of inspire. They cool you down, and so on and so forth. The other thing about this whole virus is that I've never seen a situation, there's so much question regarding it, so much doubt. No one knows this or that. Again, today they know some, but the questions, every day they're changing. Today they changed, Fauci came along and said didn't have to close the schools. So all this time they're closing, it doesn't harm kids. So now they decided they don't have to close the schools. Again, I'm not getting into the stuff if this all was intentional, for which might very well be true, but just the idea that it's full of doubts and questions, which Amalek is also gematria Safek, which is doubt. The other interesting thing is that, sad thing, it impacts the real danger of the virus is if it gets to the lungs, and it wreaks havoc on the lung, which is the breathing. In Torah, we know that the power of Amalek is they try to interrupt between the Yud K, between the head, in the first two letters of God's name, of the Yud K and the Vav K, the Vav and the Hey of Hashem's name, which we know the Vav is the 6 emotions that are in the heart. Hey is speech, and Yud and Hey is the two faculties of mind, Chachma and Bina. And Amalek makes an interruption between the two, which means he primarily impacts the midos, the emotions, by cutting them off from the intellect. So if that's the case, it makes perfectly sense that the virus wreaks havoc on the heart. It wreaks havoc on the lungs, which is the idea of the emotions, on that element of a person, which is most associated with the Vav K of the person. So based on all of that, I was thinking a little bit about this remedy of the zinc, because Amalek is gematria 240. Gematria Rum, Reish Mem. Ayin is 70, Mem is 40. So together it makes it 110. And then Lamed is another 30, is 140. And Kuf is 100. So there you go, 240. Now, it says that 240 is the same gematria as the word barzel. Barzel, which means metal. So Beis and Resh is 202, bar. And then Zayin and Lamed is 37. 202 plus 37 is 239. So 239 is the same gematria as 240. Gematrias, we know that when it's missing one, we add the word itself, and that's it. It says in Svarim that barzel, metal, Amalek, what did we say earlier? The clip of Amalek is stubbornness. And when you say someone is stubborn, he's got, stubborn like steel, like metal. So metal is something hard. And therefore, the antithesis to Amalek is to fight it. You can't fight Amalek with reasoning. You can't reason your way out of, if you're attacked, God forbid, spiritually by Amalek, that's making you cold and throwing doubt, you can't try to argue it reasonably. You have to fight Amalek with stubbornness. You have to dig deep inside yourself and just come out like a ferocious lion and say, so it is. Let's say, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. We're so excited that Mashiach is coming. We've been talking about it so much. And seeing it in every aspect and in every element of what was going on in the world and what is going on in the world from all the directions. And sometimes, there are certain, the Amalek comes and throws you and starts casting doubts. Especially we've had what looks, at least to our apparent eyes, a little bit of a setback. Again, we don't know yet where things are going. And I want to dedicate the share actually to this idea. To hoping for the most extraordinary v'nahapachu and miracle that yes, looks like will require the biggest miracles and the biggest of miracles. But if there was ever a season of miracles coming, Hanukkah and Yutes Kislev, this is the time for it. But the danger is, which I see happens to me as well, is you get thrown off. You get kind of like, the Amalek comes in and throws in a doubt and says, hey, but you see this, and then you become like, you become all slouched. Basically, Corona gets to you. And maybe, I'm doing my own cheshbon nefesh now loud over here. Maybe the reason Corona did get to me this week is maybe the physical is a indication of spiritual. Maybe it's because I kind of became a little Mashiach, cooled off the last 2-3 weeks, just because I wasn't, just because I'm being impacted by reading the news and looking at things. It used to be that the times that I looked at the news and I kept on seeing every single piece of news was like, bang, Mashiach. And now you kind of see the faces I'm watching. The people that I'm looking on the news are not the people I want to see there. As an introduction to Mashiach. It doesn't look like it. So it kind of maybe drained my energy, which what Amalek does. It drains the enthusiasm by putting in doubt. You can't fight Amalek with reasons, with arguments. You just have to apply rock solid stubbornness, which means you have to get your pnimius haneshama, your essence of your soul, which is your barzel, which is your steel, emuna, your keter, your crown, and only through rock solid emuna can you fight it. And that's why I'm thinking that zinc is this miracle remedy, that the zinc fighting the corona, because the corona is just this physical attacking of the manifestation of Amalek, and the antithesis to it could be the zinc. Again, it definitely works. There's no question that it works. The explanation, quite a possibility. So that was just my little thought on my own experience this week with Corona, and Baruch Hashem, hopefully coming out of it. And if just like I'm getting healed physically, I want to get healed spiritually, mentally, psychologically, and not have even the tiniest bit of Amalek questions, doubts, coolness. It's good to be cool, but not cold, God forbid. Just enthusiastic, excited, and fired up. In any case, now let's talk about the incredible week that's ahead of us, the number 19, which I want to get to. in Yutes Kislev, and what the opportunity presents to us this week, and hopefully many of the recent, of the recent miracles that we've seen in the world in the last couple of years, which were very, very strong Mashiach indicators, were associated to the day of Yutes Kislev. And the Yutes, let me explain a little Yutes Kislev. Yutes Kislev is the day that in Chabad is celebrated as Rosh Hashanah for Hasidus. It's the day of the liberation of Shneur Zalman of Liadi, first Chabad Rebbe. He was accused by the Russian government for some form of treason, in which he's collaborating with other countries, collusion. He was accused of collusion with the Turks, instead of a collusion with the Russians. He was accused of collusion with Turkey, and that he was sending money, and there was stuff going on, and basically that he wants to envision himself. He wants to make himself kind of the king of the Jewish people. And and where did this happen? Because of slander, sadly coming from Jews who felt that the Alter Rebbe was a danger. Shneur Zalman, the founder of Chabad Hasid, was a danger to the Jewish people, to traditional Judaism, and he's leading a new cult, and therefore his blood is permitted. That's what they felt. And they felt actually it was a mitzvah. It was a mitzvah to give him, if they couldn't destroy him any other ways, by convincing the Jewish people not to follow Hasidim, because he was his charisma, his light, his learning, his teachings were so powerful and so convincing, anybody that only allowed themselves to learn his Torah, that if they can't beat him that way, they will beat him by locking him up. That was their plan. Take him down whichever way they can. So the Rebbe was arrested and taken into prison, and it was a very, very severe accusations against him. And he spent like 2 months, less than 2 months, 53 days, but close to 2 months in jail. And then he proved, he proved himself in front of he was interrogated, and they realized he proved his innocence. And then he was vindicated and freed. And it was on the 19th of Kislev, which was a special day for him before that already, because it was his dear master and teacher, his Rebbe's yahrzeit, the yahrzeit of the great saintly the second master of Hasidism, the holy Rabbi Ber Magid, the Magid of Mizrich. And on that auspicious day, we know that the yahrzeit of the tzaddik is a super powerful day, especially for a very loyal, devoted student of his. So on that day, the schus of his Rebbe came and helped him out. And it's so amazing, because it's occurring to me now, Hasidism is so based on the bond between Rebbe and Chassid. So the fact that the master of Hasidism was liberated, and this became the day celebrating the liberation of the Hasidic movement, and the teachings of Hasidus triumphed, and it can spread across the entire world, and today, and it can be taught everywhere, and you have the this whole thing, and it's rooted in a geula that came about where a chassid was saved, obviously by God's intervention, but it was done with the help and through the channel of his Rebbe, which is part of Hasidism, is the belief that your channel of energy and life and blessings is all channeled through the tzaddik that you're bonding with. That's just Hasidism 101 is the foundation, fundamental bond between a Rebbe and a Chassid. There are those who don't like it, think that this is some kind of a medium and placing meanings between God and this is not the discussion for now. It's been already disproved that that has no basis at all. But it's interesting that the Eberster made it dafka, that the Yutes Kislev, the great celebration, is associated with his Rebbe's yahrzeit, which kind of is a lesson. Hold on to the Rebbe, hold on to your teacher, hold on, because That's your koyach, that's your power, that's your strength, and that will do you good, and that will enable you to do your avoda, your service. The Alter Rebbe's avoda was to illuminate the world with the lights of Chassidus, which without him being liberated, he would not be able to do it. So therefore, this day is instituted as a very powerful day for the lights of Chassidus. And the light of Chassidus is powerful in each and every one of us, but Chassidus is also associated with Mashiach, because we know that the Baal Shem Tov, when he went up to the Heichal of Mashiach, when he went into the chamber of Mashiach, Mashiach asked him, he asked Mashiach, when are you coming? And Mashiach said, when your teachings will spread forward. So the Alter Rebbe's day of liberation, which allowed him to teach these teachings forward, and in a deeper level, the fact that after he was released, he not only did he continue teaching, but he intensified his Chabad method, which meant to teach these deep mystical teachings in a way that average people, not only deep, saintly souls, neshamas, deep mystics can understand, but that it can be brought down to the human mind, which was really at the heart of his arrest. As explained in Chassidus, the Balatanya, the Rav Shneur Zalman himself explained, and it was later discussed and explained by the other Chabad Rabbi, especially by the fifth Chabad Rebbe, Reb Shalom Dei Ber, known as the Rebbe Rashab, and then the previous Rebbe, and then Lubavitcher Rebbe, spent hours and hours and hours and teachings explaining this idea that what was at stake over here, and the Alter Rebbe himself writes it in letters that he writes to his colleagues, to other saintly Hasidic masters, or Baruch of Mezhebush, and others, in which he writes to them that this wasn't a war against me privately, this was a war against the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. But the physical battle was just a physical, earthy symbol and a sign, or an actualization, of a spiritual war that was being fought, an opposition that was in the higher realms. And over there, it wasn't coming from the bad guys. It was coming from holiness, the realms of holiness. Angels, whoever is part of that whole, felt that by the Alter Rebbe, by Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi, making Chassidus accessible in the way that he made it accessible, was cheapening the teachings, because it was giving access to everybody, even people that are not of the refined nature, that should be worthy to be given access to such sublime, deep, divine secrets. What is Chassidus? It basically opens up the heavens above. It peels away all the barriers, and it exposes heaven. It exposes the inner secret. It exposes the deepest secrets of the Torah and the deepest truths about God, which before his days, Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi, there were lots and lots of restrictions, and only people that refined themselves beyond the material, were very, very refined, elevated human beings, definitely had no connection to any sin whatsoever, and in addition to that, didn't really have much connection to any materialistic pursuits. It was totally devoted. And after they studied all of Torah, and then they would go into the deeper parts of Torah to study secrets. Here, Reb Shneur Zalman was opening up a retail store, to everybody, to give Chassidus. That was the opposition against him. And it wasn't just that he was the one, that anybody that came to him or he was able to come to Liozna, where he was, and receive dosages of Chassidus, where here the Rebbe was, other Hasidic Rebbe masters gave little tiny teachings. He used to speak for hours. It's not just the fact that he gave a lot; it was the manner of how he taught it, which means he taught it systematically and in a way that is comprehensible in human. He brought examples from human psychology, from the human soul, and from the way we experience things, for very, very abstract godly things. And others So therefore the opposition was that he's cheapening these teachings by bringing them down and making them so accessible. And because there was a great opposition against him spiritually, that's why it translated in this opposition to him down here below, which materialized in the Russian government, the Tsarist government, throwing him into a dungeon and wanting to kill him, and his life was in danger. But what happened on the 19th of Kislev? On the 19th of Kislev, the real miracle was not what happened down here. The real miracle was what happened up there. In heaven, it was debated, and it was decided that what Reb Shneur Zalman is doing, and that is to teach these teachings, is the right thing to do. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it is necessary to save the Jewish people, because the Jewish people were in a serious spiritual decline, and had they not gotten a new infusion of energy and powerful enlightenment through this deeper dimension of Torah, then their connection that they had to on a more external level to the Torah, or rather learning the Torah's the way they studied Torah for thousands of years without access to this inner secret, was not going to be enough to hold them during the trying times that the Jewish people were going to go through, the challenges of the Enlightenment, the challenges of modernity, of the modern world, the challenges of the world opening up and inviting the Jewish people into all the cultures that we've had, which was different than the life in ghetto and persecuted, which that itself held us. But to start opening up and becoming exposed to everything we're exposed to today, we would not have the inner strength to remain Jews, as we see so many of our people did lose their connection to Torah and mitzvahs and chose to become assimilated, God forbid, slowly, but that's what happened. Huge chunks of the Jewish people did get persuaded and pulled out of observance and lost their connection. And had this not been accessed, these teachings of Chassidus, then it would have, who knows what it would have done to the Jewish people in terms of who knows, we might have not had a remnant left of observant Jews in the world, of Torah Jews. Again, of course, obviously, you can argue about that because, it's a hypothetical. What would have happened? This is what the Alter Rebbe himself said in defense to teaching these teachings, that when the prince is ill, you do whatever it can to save the prince, even if it means taking the crown jewel, which is these deep teachings of the Torah, and grinding them down and turning it into a medication. And even if you're just going to get maybe a tiny little bit of this Chassidus, of this amazing deep secrets into the mouth of this child, you're going to save a life, save the prince. And the king, which is God in this case, is very happy that we're doing it, even though a lot is being squandered. And that's what Yutas Kislev is. That's what the Yom Tov is all about. That's number one, saving the Jewish people. Number two, these secrets are necessary to prepare us for the greatest revelation of secrets that are going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. In other words, with all the secrets that were revealed through Chassidus, it's just a tiny little drop in the bucket to what Mashiach is going to reveal. That's what Mashiach, the coming of Mashiach, is primarily a new entryway into Torah study in ways that we've never studied before, where the Torah will open up its secret doors. And we will get to see the Torah in ways that were beyond. Chassidus is the preparation for that. So that's why we understand that this is an unbelievable Yom Tov, very powerful day. Now the question, however, is, what's its relationship to this week's Parsha? Because everything is in the Parsha. What's its relationship to Parsha's Vayishlach? Now, Vayishlach, the Parsha Vayishlach, is all about the rectification of Esau. Yaakov goes to, after he finishes in the house of Lavan, now he's going to meet his brother Esau, and he does rectify him. First, he's intimidated by him. He seems to be, an, you know, reserving all of his hatred to him, and maybe even it grew during all this 20 years that Yaakov wasn't there, 20, whatever years, so years. No, it was actually 35 years, because Yaakov first spent 14 years. So this a long period of time, you would think he would have forgotten, but no, the hatred was there, was preserved, and I was coming with all of his animosity towards him, but a magical moment, as they meet, like Esav's heart melts, and he kisses Yaakov. There's an argument, two opinions, if the kiss was fully sincere, but even if it wasn't sincere, the fact that he's kissing him and not killing him is a miracle. So you see a certain tikkun, a certain rectification. And then Esav is kind of begging Yaakov, can you please fix this tikkun? You know, you've done a job on me now. I don't know what happened to me. I'm feeling like a brother. I'm not feeling like a monster. It's the first time in my life I feel so good. He says, I like this. Can you hang out with me some more? And Yaakov basically says, you know, it's going to take some time. That's the idea. And then it takes another 3,500 years until we finish, or 4,000 years, until we finish this rectification of Esau, which we've been doing in the lands of Esau, and that's what our exile is all about. The exile of 2,000 years in the lands of Esau, which we're busy fixing Esau, which is the idea in which Yaakov says to Esau. Esau says, come to me, come to my place. And Yaakov says, I'm going to get there. I'm going to be there one day. I'll come, El Adoni Seira. And Rashi says, when will we go? In the days of Melech HaMashiach. Yaakov is going to go judge the mountain of Esau. And then it will be Vayishlach Hashem HaMelucha, as it says this week in the Haftorah, which the Haftorah is a commentary on the Chumash, on the Parsha. In the Haftorah it says how in the end of days, the saviors of Israel will go up onto the mountain of Esau to judge the mountain of Esau. And to God will be kingship forever, which is the revelation of Mashiach's kingship for all of time. So you see that, so this is what it is. So the Parsha is all about this fixing. Now, why is it so important to fix the world of Esau? So it's explained in Chassidus, and we discussed it many times, that Esau harbors amongst himself some very, very powerful energies of holiness, sparks of holiness. It's for that reason that Yitzchak, that Isaac loved Esau. He didn't just love him, you know, he loved his looks, or he loved him, I don't know. What did he love about him? He saw potential. He saw in him incredible godly potential. It's only that the best stuff is always hidden in the darkest of places. Esau was a very dark human being, but he contains within himself powerful, unbelievable, explosive energies. And these are energies that are important and are necessary for Mashiach. We can't have Mashiach without these energies. So Yaakov needs to rectify Esau, and through that, together, they can have the Geulah. You can see it. You can basically say that it has to do with the rectification of the Gentile world. In other words, does it mean specifically Esau in a narrow sense, Esau and Esau's descendants, or does it mean in general the nations in the world need to be fixed? You see the other story, that's the theme of Vayishlach. Now there's another story in Parshas Vayishlach, which also has the same theme. And that is when after Yaakov goes and finally arrives after his confrontation with Esau, he has a very, very tragic story with his daughter Dinah, in which one of the noblemen of the tribes over there living in the Canaan lands in Eretz Canaan, a Hittite actually, his name was Shem, fell in love with Yaakov's daughter, and he abducted her and he raped her, and they wanted to keep her as a wife. And we have the story that the two of the brothers, Shimon and Levi, they went to negotiate and speak to him, and he asked for a hand in marriage after he did what he did, and they told him that if you we can't for us to marry in with you, we need you guys to be like us, like one family. We have a covenant that was made with our family to Avram Avinu, which is the covenant of circumcision. If you circumcise, we'll be brothers. It was a matter of deception. They went and they circumcised, and because they were weak after the circumcision, third day, Shimon and Levi took their swords, massacred the entire town. That's the story. And they took their daughter, and that story is also something to do with the rectifications of the nations. Even though it's a dark story in the sense that there was a massacre and there was a killing and so on and so forth, but it does show because the question is asked, how did Shimon and Levi, okay, they were youngs, they were zealots, they were only 13 years old, but they're still the tribes. These are the fathers, again, these are the founding fathers of the Jewish people. So they must have acted based on some justification. It couldn't just be that they were enraged just because they messed with their sister. It wasn't just their emotional reaction. Even though Yaakov does chastise them, Yaakov rebukes them, but still there had to be a some kind of a justification that this is morally and ethically right. So Ramban and Rambam both say that they judge them in a court, that because there are 7 Noahide laws, and in the 7 Noahide laws there is, for instance, one of the things is that there has to be law and order, and people have to be held accountable. Here, the nobleman Shechem, grabbed the girl and does with her whatever he wants, and no one does anything. He should have been under arrest. They could have gone to the police station and complained, and nothing happened. So when they saw that there was no judicial system and there's no, then a society that does not have a system of accountability, such a society loses its right to exist. And for that reason, they punished it. But what you see from here is you see that the Jewish people, they can say, well, okay, that's a society. It's the Gentile world. We're the Jewish people, so we should mind our own business and just take care of ours. But here you see the same idea. Jews are responsible for the rectification and for the behavior of the non-Jews as well. And if we want Mashiach, we're going to have to deal with the non-Jewish world as well. It's not just a Jewish thing. Mashiach is not coming just to a small shtibel in Borough Park and have a little tish over there, and we're all going to sing and dance and clap our hands. Mashiach is universal. Mashiach is global. As Rambam himself says, that Mashiach is going to rectify the entire world. The Yasakin Asa'olam Kulo is going to rectify humanity to serve God. Parshas, so the theme of Parshas Vayishlach is this rectification. Again, as we see, Yaakov rectifying Esav, the tribes dealing with the Gentile world around them in their compliance of 7 Noahide laws, and finally the end of the parsha, in which it speaks about the descendants of Esav. That gives us a little bit a peek into the mystical element of all of this, because according to Kabbalah, all the way in the end of the parsha, it mentions the whole lineage of kings of Esav, which according to the Holy Arizal, and those kings, which speaks about 7 generations of kings, and each one was king and died, and king and died, and king reigned and died, this is all a mystical description. Obviously, these are kings that lived in this world, but the reason that the story unfolded like that there were 7 kings, is because spiritually, in a primordial existence, in an ancient godly existence, there were forces that collapsed. And these are these powerful energies that we spoke about before, called the powerful forces of Tohu, that have fallen down and that contain within themselves the mysteries of the Geula, of the redemption, and they're called sparks of Tohu. And we, the Jewish people, are lacking that energy. We have the commitment to God. We have a rectified outlook, a connected state of consciousness. But our work is to rectify the Esav world, and thereby access this intense energy and this intense wealth, and combine both of it together for Mashiach. So Parshas Vayishlach, again, as mentioned, is the parsha associated most with, or in Genesis, at least in Bereshis, with the rectification of the non-Jewish world. Now the question then becomes, what's the relationship with that with Yutes Kislev, the 19th of Kislev? The 19th of Kislev seems to be a very, very in-house story. Although it was involving a foreign government, or in their case, the local government, but foreign, I mean foreign to the Jewish people, it was the Russian Tsarist government that had threatened the well-being of the Alter Rebbe. They incarcerated him, and there was even a threat that they were gonna, if he would be found guilty, then he could be facing capital punishment. And they were the ones who redeemed him. But that's not really that. Everybody realized that they're just the tool, the instrument. What this really was an in-house fight between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim, between the Hasidim and the anti-Hasidim. And the victory of the Hasidic movement was a display for the Jewish world that Hasidism is here to stay. And it gained a lot of strength and a lot of momentum, and it exploded all over. And those that were hesitant until that point to learn Hasidus or to investigate it were curious, and they started learning and opening up, and the Hasidic movement grew by leaps and bounds. So that's the story. And especially its spiritual element, which it means is that deep secrets of the Torah were now permitted to flow, to gush forward. So this is an inner type of a celebration. Why is the Torah portion that accompanies it every year? It either falls out in the week of Vayishlach, or it falls out that Shabbos Vayishlach is the Shabbos before it. It's in the next week, Parshas Vayeshev, but it always comes out connected to Parshas Vayishlach, which Parshas Vayishlach. Now, the story of Yosef and the brothers, that's more like it. Jews fighting, two different opinions. They don't like him. They throw him into a pit. That's there. You can see the 19th of Kislev as that kind of a story. But why? Why Parshas Vayishlach? Confrontation of Yaakov and Esau. In other words, this didn't grow out of, if it would be a story of anti-Semitism, just, non-Jews picking on the Jews, and we had some kind of a rescue. That's exactly it, Yaakov and Esau. But that's not the story. It's a story of the liberation of the deepest treasures of the Torah. Why does it have to be Parshas Vayishlach? So to understand that, let's take a look at a letter Rabbi Zalman of Liadi writes as soon as he came out of jail. He writes a letter to two of his friends, two of the students, two of the great Hasidic masters of his time. One, his mechutin, meaning his in-laws, not his in-laws, but his family connection through, I don't know how you call it, maybe in-laws, is Reb Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, and the other one, Reb Baruch of Mezhebush, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. So to both these great saintly Rebbes, Reb Shneur Zalman writes a letter about his liberation. And in both of them, he emphasizes very strongly the big miracle that happened to him. But it's not a long letter. It's got maybe, I would say, 20 lines. It's like just one page, less than a page. And he explains when the miracle happened. He was saying Tehillim, and he said, Pada b'shalom nafshi, chapter 55 in Tehillim, God redeemed my soul. And he says what he feels was the merit that he had, that he was helping out so much, the special merit that he was helping out the Jews in Israel. He used to collect money for them, and so on and so forth, the merit of the Holy Land, and so on. But in the beginning, when he's speaking about like this awesome thing that happened, he spends so much talking about how this was a miracle that baffled and surprised and caused all the ministers of the Tsar, all the higher echelon of the Russian government, to be awed by what took place. And let me read it to you. It says, Yan Moshech Hashem Oisi, Hashem drew me, Veyaleni, and he lifted me up, Levaser Anovim, that I can, Levaser I can give news, anavim to the humble ones, Yisroel leiv simcha, to the straight heart of heart. I can bring joy. Simchut tzadikim Hashem. Righteous ones rejoice in God. He's writing this letter to tzadikim. The students of the Baal Shem Tov were great tzaddikim. So he's writing a letter to them. Simchut tzaddikim. V'hilaltem Hashem Elokechem. And praise God your God. Now that makes sense. You're writing the tzaddikim, the chasidim, the tzaddikim, dance and sing. Asher asi imachem lahafli. That God has done a wonder. Ad ein mispar, without an end. Agida v'adabeda. Let me relate and let me say, Atzmu misaper, it's too much. I'm sorry. Agida v'adabera atzmu misaper. For me to relate and to speak, it's too much to even be able to describe the wonder that happened. Ki hifla Hashem, because God has done something wondrous. V'higdil, and has done great. Lasais ba'aretz, to do in the land, meaning something, God did a big thing down here in the world. V'hifli, and again, we'll soon see, it's amazing how many times he uses this word, pele, the root of the word. V'hifli, he's again, he did a wonder. V'higdil shmoy agadol v'hakadosh, and he made his great and holy name great. Asher is gadol v'niskadish, in which his name became great and sanctified. Berabin, publicly. Ubefrat, specifically. Be'einei kol hasarim, in the eyes of all the ministers. V'chol ha'amim, and all the nations. Asher b'chol medinais hamelech, in all the countries of all the provinces of the king. A borrowed term from Megillas Esther, where it says, that from all the provinces of the king. Asher gam be'eineihem yipola hadavar, because also in their eyes it was a wonder. Haflevu pela, wonder of wonder. Va'anu v'amru, and they responded, and they said, al zois, on what happened. Ki yeme'es Hashem hoisa zois. It was a moment of incredible clarity. It was a moment that kind of took all the nobility in Russia, and they all saw this, and they were moved by it, and they pointed, and they said, this is from an act of God. He neflas beninu, it was a wonder in their own eyes. V'tia zois lepele ki Hashem itanu, and this is a pele, this is a wonder that God is with us. Ve'ein oid, and there's none but Him, or nothing else other than it. It goes on to the letter. But there's quite a serious bit of this letter in which he's talking about the wonder that were going on, that God made a big Kiddush Hashem, but strongly emphasizing that this impacted the nobility in Russia. Now, the Alter Rebbe, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, he's not really doing much with these nobility. It's not like he has programs running that he's running with them tomorrow. He's a Rebbe for Hasidim. It's not like he needs favors now from Congress or from this or from that to see things through. That's not what he was busy with. He's a Rebbe of Chassidim. He's here. He's happy they leave him alone. Let me do my thing. Go home. You guys do your thing. I'm not going to bother you. You don't bother me. Here the Rebbe suddenly is busy that they're all surprised. Everybody's, what does he need, the honor? Why is it that he's making such a big deal about the fact? And he's writing it to the tzaddikim. It's one thing if he feels the way himself, but he's writing this that he feels that his colleagues need to know this. They should understand. Now, meaning to say, maybe it's when a Kiddush Hashem happens, it's a nice thing. When people sanctify God's name, when Gentiles recognize God, it's a nice thing. You can't compare it to the insignificance and the importance of the event, which as it relates to the Jewish people. The Jewish people will have their tzaddik continue with them. As a result of this, Chassidus Chabad will continue on for 7 generations with teachings upon teachings and teachings, flooding the world with divine knowledge, with the deepest secrets. As a result of this, that is the primary story. That's what we should celebrate. Not that in the newspapers and amongst the nations, they're going, oh, wow, that's awesome. So this is a question the Lubavitcher Rebbe asks on this letter. And he says, why does the Alter Rebbe, his grandfather, make such a big deal about the fact that this caused the nations of the world, I'm sorry, the people who knew, the government in Russia, to be shocked by the miracle of it and by the wonder of it. Meaning it seems to me that it was a very publicized thing, and it was something that they recognized, and they saw that the outcome was not expected. It was an unexpected outcome. It wowed them. Everybody was wowed by it. And they knew who the source of it is. They believed that it was God that did this. And this is important. So the Rebbe asks why. And again, it relates to the same question, why it relates to Parshas Vayishlach. And the answer is, it's a long discussion. It's a whole sikha that he has on it, but I'm just saying the main point. And the idea is as follows. And that is that the liberation of the Alter Rebbe, in addition to it being what it meant for the Hasidic world and for the Jewish world, is really cosmic. It's relating to it's part of the world's it's part of the world evolving towards the redemption. His redemption could be seen as one of the phases of Mashiach, of the final redemption. Since this is a phase in redemption and connected, thereby very, very much part of Geula, of Mashiach, it has to have an impact. It has to be connected to the nations as well. Because as we said earlier, Mashiach is not a narrow experience for the Jewish people. Mashiach is global. Mashiach is impactful on all of man. And it's related to the idea now that the coming of Mashiach, it says, the pasuk says, Ki yemei tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim, like the days that you went out from the land of Egypt, arenu neflois, I will show you wonders. And it compares the future redemption to the past redemption. Just like when we went out of Mitzrayim, God showed wonders. When Mashiach will come, we will also see even bigger wonders. So when we take a look, so we have to draw a comparative analysis between the going out of Egypt and the future redemption. When we went out of Mitzrayim, obviously the going out of Egypt was very impactful in Israel, on the Jewish people. Till then we were a nation of slaves, and now we were liberated, and we were able to become our own people. And as a result of that, we were able to receive the Torah, and then change the whole world through the Torah, and go to Eretz Yisroel, and have this first of all, by Har Sinai, have this encounter with God, and have a Torah to guide us, and a Beis HaMikdash, and all the goodies that came as a result of that. And we know that the Egyptian Golus was all a preparation because we needed a certain purification to happen and so on and so forth. So we went out of Egypt. Wow, it was. We still evolve. All of our mitzvahs revolve around remembering the day you went out of Egypt, especially once a year on Pesach, where this is our primary holiday, and the night so core essential in Jewish experience. We forever remember it. Even after Mashiach comes, we're still going to talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim because it's so fundamental and so core. So that's for us. But if you read in the Torah what God wants to get out of Yetzias Mitzrayim, he doesn't only speak about what it's going to do for the Jewish people. He mentions that to Moshe. When you'll go out of Egypt, you'll serve God on this mountain. Yeah, you'll get the Torah. Very important. But God keeps on mentioning, probably even more than when he talks about what it's going to do for the Jewish people. He keeps on mentioning again and again what it's going to do for Egypt. V'yadu Mitzrayim ki ani Hashem. Those deniers, those people that don't know me, that don't recognize me, those people who worship only the name of Elokim. Elokim is Teva, nature. Those who believe only in the scientists, who don't believe in a power that's beyond science, that's beyond the infinite power of God that controls the world, that creates the rules of science, that creates the rules of nature. The Egyptians didn't believe in that. They will know that I am God. And that is so important. It was so important for Egypt to also know that God is God. And to know, when we say know God is God, know that a transcendental power that transcends nature, which is the name that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Hashem's truer inner name, as opposed to Elokim, which is a far more external name associated with creation. That they had an understanding before, but now they're going to come to the knowledge of God himself. So we see that was important. And it changed. It changed humanity, its perception, because from the Egyptians seeing that recognition impacted all of humanity. I'm sure had lots of impact in the fact that I'm sure, without a shadow of a doubt, the fact that today's days most I would say probably 2/3 of the world population, maybe even more, is monotheistic, a belief in one God. And that God they got to know when Jews went out of Egypt. The Yadu Mitzrayim. That was very, very crucial and very important. As great as that was when we went out of Egypt, it's obviously that was only a tiny little bit compared to what is going to be when Mashiach will come. When Mashiach will come, since the Shekhinah will go out of exile, and even though the Shekhinah went out of exile when we went out of Egypt, but the Shekhinah did not completely go out of exile, because the Shekhinah is really the power that is enlivening and sustaining and creating all of existence. The Shekhinah is the truth of everything. The truth of all of creation, all of existence is the Shekhinah. And since even after we went out of Egypt, it was not clearly experienced and felt and sensed and visualized by everybody that God is reality. They knew there was a power of God that could control the world, but that God is reality, that He is the tree, He is the earth, He is the heaven, He is the stars, He is the minerals, He is the mountains, He is the valleys, He is the galaxies, He's everything. There's nothing but Him. He is the true existence, and from Him emanates all of existence. That truth was not revealed in the world yet in Mitzrayim. It was like a glimpse of God from the outside. So that was not yet the going out of the Shekhinah. It wasn't a full redemption. And that's why it also didn't last. The exile came back and the forces of evil became empowered again, and all kinds of dark stuff happened. This Geula, which comes after the rectification of all the world as a result of all the mitzvot and all the good that we've done. So now the Shekhinah is really going to undress herself and reveal herself in the world. And that means that in every atomic particle, every subatomic particle, it's going to be sensed and felt how there is only one existence, and the existence is God. And that's why the pasuk says, "V'nigla kavod Hashem." What's going to happen when Mashiach comes at the time of this redemption? The glory of God is going to be revealed. V'ro kol basar, that it's going to be that all flesh, all physical flesh, all physical beings, not spiritual souls in a higher realm. Down here in the physical world, everybody will behold the power, the power of God, and God's existence, and that the power of God that creates and sustains the universe. And it's going to be in a way, this is the idea of Ro kol basar, means that it's going to be the natural to the physical eye to see that. Meaning it's not going to be like an otherworldly experience, a vision, a dreamlike vision, some kind of an experience you have if you're taking, you take certain substances and put you into some and when one will, you see things. No. It's going to be the natural, normal perception. Our entire perception of physicality and the world around us is going to dramatically change to the naked physical eye. We will see in everybody and in everything its truth. We'll see it connected to a spiritual life force and to the divine power that's behind it. That is about to happen. Now, why is that going to happen? Because the ultimate redemption means truth is revealed. The emes, the truth of God, the Shekhinah goes out of exile. The Shekhinah is obscured. She has been all along the power in creation, but it's been obscured. When Mashiach will come, this truth will just emerge to the surface, and everybody will see it. So, if it's only to the Jewish people and not to the world, then it's not Mashiach. It will impact all of humanity. And now we understand why the 19th of Kislev, since it is a phase of the coming of Mashiach. As we said earlier, the secrets of the Torah are going to be revealed when Mashiach comes, and the secrets of the Torah were revealed on the 19th of Kislev. Inherently important to that is that it brings a revelation of God, not just to the Jewish people, to the Hasidim who said, wow, God did a miracle, but that the people in the Russian government needed to recognize and literally have like a Mashiach moment where they saw the wonder. They saw the miracle. And that is inherently important to the 19th of Kislev. This is what the Rebbe says. When I looked at the letter, I was interested in I got excited about it because this year we know is the year, this decade is the year of Plaos. Plaos means Tavshin Pei, 57.8. Pei is the acronym of the word Pele, which Pele means a wonder. And this year is Pei Aleph, Plaos Arenu, we will see wonders. So it and the word and Pei, as I mentioned earlier, is 80. So it's interesting if you can, when you look at the Alter Rebbe's letter, I counted that he uses in the Yutes Kislev, in his Yutes Kislev letter, he mentions 8 times the word Pella. I mentioned Pella, he mentions 8 times the word Pella. Let's see over here. He says, the first time it's he has done with you for a wonder. Ki hifla Hashem, another hifla. Higdal asis ba'aretz. Vehifli, third. Vehigdal shmai agadol v'akadosh, right? Asher gam ba'ineyem yipale, that's 4. Hadavar. Hafle, 5. Upele, 6. Va'amru al zois. Ki yemei eis Hashem hois zois. Hu niflas be'einenu, that's 7. V'tia zois lepele ki Hashem itanu. And this should be a wonder that Hashem is with us. 8 times. Pele is associated with the number 8. And as I mentioned, since Yutes Kislev is so associated with the advancement of Chassidus, is, to take it a step deeper than what I've been saying, Chassidus is exactly this teaching. What does Chassidus teach? How God is the world. That the world is nothing more than the words of God creating it. So that's why Chassidus is Mashiach. And that's why Chassidus has to impact the world. That's why Yutes Kislev, the day of the liberation of Chassidus, is a day in which godliness shows itself in the world. That the world is not a godless world, the world is a godly world. And I think for those who know, you know that I didn't say it on one of these big shiurim, but I did mention it. I have received a little bit of a gag order from the Lubavitcher Rebbe about talking about political things. So I'm keeping away from it for now. But I'm just saying that for those who know, you can listen to earlier classes in which you can see that certain of the miracles that happened in the last couple of years associated with the 19th of Kislev, like the announcement regarding Jerusalem, that Yerushalayim is the capital of the Jewish people, and happened on the 19th of Kislev. Other things happened on the 19th of Kislev. And therefore, I'm very, very excited for the 19th of Kislev that is coming this year. May Hashem continue that when the Alter Rebbe says Pele, wonder, something that's shocking the world, this is the week of miracles, the week of wonders, the week of Hafla Pele, of miracles. May God show the miracles. However, only Hashem knows how to show these miracles. The miracles of miracles. I'm going to say an interesting idea and associated with number 19. I mentioned earlier that in the end of the parsha it speaks about the shattered vessels. It speaks about the kings of Esav and the rectification that and the spiritual meaning of that. is that these kings who died embodied this, they represent this falling of these powerful spiritual energies into the world of Esav, which we have to fix. When you take, I saw this in the Rabbi Yisroel, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's father's Kabbalistic writings. So he writes an interesting thing. How many of these kings are there that ruled and died in 7? The 8th one, number 8, is state of rectification. And by the way, Parshas Vayishlach is Parsha number 8. Because 8 is this wonder, the wonder of the rectification of the unholy world, that too becomes rectified. That's the wonder. That doesn't make any sense, because we've been used to that there's the holy and the unholy. And the holy, we have to just worry about the holy. But when we find out that the unholy too becomes part of the holy, it's that transformation. And that's the wonder. Parshas Vayishlach is number 8. But he says there are 7 kings. In addition to these 7 kings, the Torah then lists the chiefs of the world of Esav. How many chiefs are there in Esav, in his world? The chieftains of the tribes of Esav is that there are 11 chiefs. So there are 7 kings and 11 chiefs. 7 and 11, like 7-11, equals 18. So he says that the whole idea of tohu, of the shattered and the brokenness, is only up to number 18. In number 19 is already the world of tikkun. That's why he says the 8th king is already past. If you take 11 chiefs and then 7 kings, and the 8th king is already number 19. It's the king Hadar. That's already rectified. And he says that's the idea of Yutes Kislev, the 19th of Kislev. This fits with what the 5th Chabad Rebbe said, Reb Shalom Dave Ber of Lubavitch said, that Yutes Kislev is the tikkun, is the rectification of the shviras hakelim of Tohu, of the shattered vessels of Tohu. Again, because the remedy of fixing the world is uncovering the truth of the world itself. And that's how the shattered world of Tohu is fixed. And that is Chassidus. And that's Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi and the Alter Rebbe. And that's why his redemption comes on the 19th of Kislev. In the world of Tohu, he goes on to explain there is no marriage. Because Tohu, there is conflict. There's only the institution of marriage is an element of tikkun, of fusion, of peace, of things coming together. That's why he says by the 7 kings, it doesn't mention anybody married. It just says 7 kings and they die. The 8th king, it says he has a wife. Me'etavel is her name. Because the 8th is already from the world of tikkun. So he brings, since the number 19 is the number already of tikkun, verses 18, that's why we say that when you're Ben Shmoyne Esrei, when you're 18, L'chuppah, that's when you should start looking for a wife or a soulmate. Why? Because he says when you hit 18, then you're entering already your 19th year. And 19, that's the power of tikkun. Chava, who's the first woman, right? So she made marriage possible to Adam. Adam now marries Chava. Chava's Gematria 19. So Chava, 19, is the world of tikkun. Somehow COVID-19 is associated to this, I believe, to the end of the world of Tohu and the entranceway to the realms of tikkun. May Hashem help that the 19th of Kislev, Parshas Vayishlach, this Shabbos, extending into Sunday, we should see the biggest miracles. Like, incredible. Now, one of the things that the Lubavitcher Rebbe seem to have predicted on this year is that Pei Aleph, I mentioned it in a couple of classes in the beginning of the year, spells the word af. Af means wrath and anger. But the Rebbe says that what af happens is af flips over, and when you turn the af around, you turn the anger around. So the idea that there is af and there's anger and there's confusion and all this, what seems to be that we all know, we're all waiting to see that from the negative, from the af, should flip over, and we should already see plois already. We should already see the wonders, the incredible wonders of the Geula. May we merit to see that now. Thank you.